Hi there, Michael here. A few weeks ago, I published a video about my favorite 3D plugins, and in this video, I listed the Spatial Audio Designer by New Audio Technology as my number 9. I'll leave a link to that video in the description in case you are interested. Shortly after that video came out, Tom Ammermann, the founder and general manager of New Audio Technology, reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in sitting down for a chat. And of course, I jumped on that opportunity. Tom is a legend in the field of immersive audio. He is a 2-time Grammy-nominated immersive audio engineer and has worked with immersive media for over 25 years. And on top of everything, he's also an extremely funny guy. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Tom as we explore the fascinating world of spatial audio, his journey into immersive technologies, and the insights that have him made a pioneer in the field. Okay, hi Tom, welcome and thank you very much for coming on my podcast, YouTube channel, however you want to call that. I'm really excited to have you on. I recently did a video where I mentioned the Spatial Audio Designer, and that is one of those pieces of software that a lot of professionals use, but that isn't really that well known in the hobbyist and semi-professional community. So I thought it might be a good idea to talk about it and to talk about what your company, New Audio Technology, is doing and where the future lies. Now, on the website, you are called the founder, general manager and visionary behind New Audio Technology. And one thing that I found particularly impressive is that you also have a Grammy nomination. There are not a lot of people that have that. So my first question is, and maybe you can also introduce yourself a little bit, but your company, New Audio Technology, was founded in Hamburg, which is interesting. A lot of companies actually coming out of Germany, and we might want to talk about that. Could you tell us a little bit about where that came from? What was the original idea behind the company, and what was the vision for creating immersive audio in the first place?
Well, this is a good question with a lot of answers in between, I would say. However, so my background is music production. So I'm an old music producer. And as I did my first immersive audio mixes in 2008 and 2009 for Sony, at a time where Blu-ray was still released, still available, I saw we urgently need tools to create immersive audio in an audio workstation, because at that time I worked with auxiliaries and cutting and to send something to this and make a movement and a transition from left surround to right surround and so on, height surround and so on. And so I started to found New Audio Technology a little bit later. So we started to develop, got a little bit funding from the government. And in 2010, we had the first version of the Spatial Audio Designer. At the time, it was a plugin for audio workstations. There was what I had in mind that I can, however, I am in Pro Tools, Nuendo, Logic, Ableton. I want to have a tool what is working in all of them. And I also want to have a tool what is independent of the format. Dolby Atmos was not existing at that time, but Auro 3D was available. And we released the first version end of 2011. And at that time, the Auro guys used it for the first immersive audio movie. There was Red Tails from Lucasfilm, mixed by the Skywalker guys in the Galaxy Studio. They used our panning tool, the Spatial Audio Designer plugin. So you see, there's a video on the internet for that, and you see our old interface, but it's still the first version of that. And then we released it in the end of 2011. And 2012, I decided to found the New Audio Technology, so put it on a little bit better basic, so making really a company, a GmbH here in Germany, a limited in the US or in UK. And from there, we started to develop all the new tools we hopefully talk later about.
It's interesting that you mentioned Blu-ray. You wouldn't believe how many people are still kind of talking to me about how do I do a Blu-ray. So it's not a kind of a technology that has disappeared. There seems to be certain parts in the world where Blu-ray is still very popular. So that just kind of a little piece of a snippet of kind of knowledge. You mentioned that you have been around for quite some time And spatial audio designer actually has a long-standing history and an important history. So I was kind of wondering, are there any milestones that kind of stand out to you? How did things develop? Were there any turning points in how kind of what you actually focus on with your company?
Yeah, what I forgot to say is, and you already touched this, my experience not started in mixing immersive was not in 2008 and 9. I started in 2000. So I got a lot of money from an advertising. I sell a lot of music to advertising, and I got a lot of money, and I bought a big Cadillac setup, a 5.1 setup for my studio. This one you can see. So this is the height layer. This is other loudspeakers, but the low layer, it's a big Cadillac system in my old studio, not existing anymore. And there I started with surroundings. So as I reached in 2008 and 9 to immersive audio, so to a next layer, I had a lot of experience mixing, especially music, in surround sound, and then in the development or the turning points was in the beginning in 2000, and this is now the cycle is closing. I started with mixing in binaural. So I was the first in Germany, I think in Europe, who had two M6000 from TC. They was released in 2000, and it was the first one who got two. And I wanted to have two because I wanted to use surround reverbs and the binaural processing they had at that time in the box. And I want to mix on headphones with 3D at that time surround reverbs binaural. And this is continuing. So the first version of the Spatial Audio Designer in 2000, end of 2011, had a binaural processing. It is a binaural processing invented by myself. So I say we measure, and I say, but I don't say how we measure and how we do the processing. This is our miracle, our rich work. And still from then until today, we have a binaural processing, and the binaural processing differs to the other possibilities in the market by it's measured from we measure real studios. So if you use your regular headphone, you have the experience. You sit in a real studio. You can adjust the reflections a little bit, and you can of course select your headphone. What is not to make the sound better of the headphone, but the compensation. So compensation of the frequency range. What we not do is getting out the soul of the headphone. What is some other companies make measurements and compensations, and after you did all that and you listen to your headphone, you think so. It's not really convincing, honestly. So we don't like that. So what we do is just looking to the low, mid, and high end, bring this in the same in a, let's say, in a default range, as well as the overall level. This is what we do in the headphone compensation.
Are you also measuring the head-related transfer function, or is it primarily the room?
No. It's both. So we really measure HRTFs, but with the room and the loudspeakers. So in our binaural processing, you hear the loudspeakers, you hear the rooms, you hear the reflections. We have influence to it. You can choose another studio if you don't like one, and you can control the reflections a little bit.
You know, I recently went through the measurement process with Sony and actually did a video about that. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't really understand, if that is measured really well, how convincing that sounds. But one of the things that I found is that it really helps if you have experience with the room that things have been measured in, right? Because your brain essentially takes you to that room, and then you suddenly kind of hear it the way it's supposed to be. I think a lot of people have issues with the idea or with systems that essentially present you with a measurement that you have no experience in, and then you cannot really relate. Is this your experience as well, that it helps if you actually know the room and then essentially take these measurements?
I would say I would go some more steps further. So from the days where we heard it the first time from the realizer from Smith Audio, the measurement was mind-blowing. I never heard something before. The Sony, I did the measurement on the AES last year from in the Sony in the Battery Park studio. I don't remember exactly. I think so. And it was very convincing. And the point is exactly what you say. And all the other, let's say, very good sounding approaches are based on you see the loudspeakers you measured, you hear before from the Bano. So you hear a measurement from the loudspeakers you see. You are in the same room and you have your own HRTFs and you have a very good working head tracking. So if this match, all these things match, this is, oh damn, could you please switch off the loudspeakers? They are not running. 100% they run. So no, they're done. They didn't run. So this is really, really, really convincing. And this makes clear exactly what you say. It is possible. But the big problem now, coming back to what you say, the big problem is that this is not daily business. Daily business, you're with your laptop, sitting at the beach, hopefully, Caipirinha, programming your new immersive audio stuff with binaural processing, and or in your living room or wherever. So if you're not in the same room, you not see the loudspeakers who are measured in this test, you not have head tracking. More than 50% are away, and this is where we say this is really the realistic stage of to judge the quality of binaural processing. So if this works in another room with any headphone and without your we don't do individual HRTFs. This is something what also now scientists say. So I say this since a very long time. The individual HRTFs are not that important. Now, scientists like Karl-Heinz Brandenburg and Rosen Nickel from Orange in France, they did some 100 measurements and did some tests, and finally 7 was chosen by more or less everybody. So this is let's say a good indicator to see the personal HRTFs is not that basic, but you need the good ones, the right ones. And this is relative, of course.
Yeah. That's it's very interesting. You know, kind of it's very interesting, and I kind of encourage everybody who is watching this video, if you get the chance to experience that yourself, try it, and especially the Smith Realizer. Unfortunately, I was in contact with them for a while. I never got a demo unit to kind of test out. We actually wanted to do that on our university, but we never managed to do that. But it's sort of one of those technologies that I think really stand out. Now we were kind of with turning points for new audio technology. What are these turning points?
After the spatial audio designer, we developed, believe it or not, we developed a game middleware. I played on the AES 2012 Doom 3 in 10.1 just from my laptop. So we have a middleware, and since more than 30 years, that is doing this. But surprise, 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 I couldn't sell it. So the game industry, of course, the first industry I tried to sell it, is so uncreative. Sorry if I say this, but this is my experience. They're so uncreative. They're just looking for where to get the next money from. So just important to hear something, but not really good sound. Of course, the big AAA games are looking for good sound as well, but they're more looking to recording orchestras. But of course, also doing 7.1, and you have Dolby Atmos now is possible. But yeah, so we did it very, very early. And the next turning point was bringing this binaural experience to another product. There was a spatial sound card. We released it in 2016, long before DVR, or all the other tools was on the market. And this is as well as long before Wave NX. This is a tool. What is exactly doing this? If you start it, it becomes to be the main audio device of your computer, and then everything what what you listen on your computer could be a video with 5.1 sound, could be a game with someone or something like that, is instantly played through the virtual loudspeaker system. We also released a version for the gamers, so it's available on Steam as well.
Oh, interesting. And that sound card is 7.1, if I'm not completely mistaken,
Yeah.
right?
Unfortunately, it's limited to 7.1 because at that time, as we developed it, 7.1 was a maximum for Mac and PC. I know it changed a little bit, and we could go higher. And this is, of course, what we have on the list for one of the next updates, but not before next year, I guess.
Yeah. Because that's actually one of the things that I found interesting. Kind of there are a couple of these systems out there, but nobody actually kind of added height speakers to that yet. At least not that I'm aware of. And there might be some technical difficulties that I'm not aware of, but it's actually quite interesting. Now my viewers know that I'm actually coming from game design, so I am very much aware of the lack of creativity in the current games industry. And I think for a long time also all eyes were literally on the visuals and not so much on the audio. I think it's only recently that companies have started to.
We have a video on YouTube where you can see where I play Doom in 50.1 virtually, my normal setting. And with a little introduction where you see with and without and what is really going on, because you can see the loudspeakers. We put an image in what is moving with you. So very funny to see it.
The game audio middleware is still available, right? But you have to. I think people have to contact you, no? Or they have to contact you for licensing, right?
You have to contact me. Yeah, we also have an API for Unreal. There's also a video on our YouTube channel where you can see Unreal. There's a standard game, a very old standard game from Unreal where we put it in. So yes, you have to contact me. It's not really available on the website, but yeah, you can get more information.
Yeah, the licensing with this thing is usually always a little bit more complicated, right? Because of all the
we
things.
Use it. We had some industry partners who did for a spacecraft. They did some measurement and testings. With audio localization, they used this tool and put this in their ecocosmos and their environment to do the tests. And they used head tracking because it's a game application. You can use head tracking, of course. And but if you want to have it, call me.
So there's a sound card, there is a game middleware, and there is of course the spatial audio designer, and that I think is the tool or the software that they are most known for. I think you also have a little bit of hardware, if I'm not completely mistaken.
Yes.
But that's probably kind of something that's out of reach for hobbyists. That's probably something really meant for professionals, right? And kind of professional installations, isn't it?
That it's a point. This is yes, it's a hardware, so it's a spatial audio designer processor. It's used and still used in many sites, venues in Germany, in Europe, in the US. We start to go to China now, and it's used in a lot of big LED domes, for example. And this is a tool for I tend to say it's a spatial audio design, a spatial audio panning tool, but we made a step further. So we say this is a management. It's an immersive management tool. And correct, this is not an end user product. This is a product where a planetarium or a theater or a big LED dome or an installation has the opportunity working with a lot of inputs, different formats, different productions on a custom-made loudspeaker configuration. So it's immersive management. Of course, you can make immersive mixes. You can play with objects and connect it with OSC and tracking systems, and use the direct out from your Lavo or StageTech mixing console to make an immersive mix. The processor also can do MPEG-H. This is the only tool, the only real-time tool in the market used by the Brazilian TV companies to create MPEG-H in real time, really. So you see, it's a lot of things you can do with this, but correct. It's a professional solution, but it doesn't mean it is far away from young or new producers, because the tool opens the door to this cosmos by supporting what you can do with the plugin in your audio workstation or audio environment. So this is a cool thing.
Very interesting. So let's return to the software. I know kind of the Spatial Audio Designer, and I have not really covered it all that much on my channel. So for those that are not really that knowledgeable about what the Spatial Audio Designer is, can you maybe kind of talk a little bit about what makes it special and what kind of distinguishes it from other tools on the market?
Right from the beginning, as I mentioned, I wanted to have a tool what is, let's say, adding the part you not have currently in your audio workstation for the immersive audio management, mixing, name it however you want. And so, different as all the other approaches, the Spatial Audio Designer is a plug-in strategy in your audio workstation. So it is, let's say, a plugin suite consists of three modules. This is a send module, this is a mix module, and this is a channel out module. The send module is placed in all your source tracks. Right after you open one of these plugins, in the background, we have a rendering engine. We start a rendering engine. Not know that by the audio workstation, so it's running in the background. The rendering engine is set to a certain format like 714, but could be also 30.1 or 60.4 or whatever. So you can create your own custom layout. And the mix module, it is placed in a stereo strip always because it delivers the binaural processing just right off the master module. And this master module looks more or less like the send modules, but you see all your send modules. You see a list and you see all the objects, and you have big screen, big panning interfaces where you can control everything. So this is for the monitoring, and this is for the overview, seeing the overview. So this way, you're very flexible to create big custom loudspeaker environments, but you can start your mix at the beach with a caipirinha, with your laptop, just monitoring the binaural stuff, then moving over to the side, connecting with Dante or Maddie, switch from 714 binaural monitoring to the 32 point whatever loudspeaker system and play it in real time out of your workstation, do all the editings, and if you say that's it, you can export a master, an object-based master from the Spatial Audio Designer plugin.
So that's super convenient. So essentially, I can start at the beach and then kind of end it in the dome, right?
Exactly, that's the point.
That's super interesting. That kind of is yeah, I like that. Now, the Spatial Audio Designer has been used by very kind of important and known people, right? Can you share maybe a couple of examples of when and how the Spatial Audio Designer was used or is being used?
Well, I can only mention the one I know from. So not everybody calling me, hey, here's David Bowie or whoever, and we work with this technology. I'm calling.
Well, the ones that you know, right?
I'm shocked they don't call me and to let me know. But what I know is, of course, my productions, and what I said, it was used for the Lucas movie, the first immersive audio movie in Red Tails. By the way, not a bad movie. So I liked it. I was surprised. It's a good movie. I didn't expect it, honestly, but it's good. So it's very exciting, entertaining, and I used it for Kraftwerk. So this is where I get my first nominations for Grammy nomination for. I did Kraftwerk in 2015 in my studio. I didn't mix it. It was mixed by Fritz Hilpert, but he also used a Spatial Audio Designer. And I did the mastering and let's say the production, and created a production environment where was at a time where Dolby has totally no idea of mixing music. At that time, they had just some videos with music, but it was the style of the mix was more a movie style. And at that time, as I mentioned to the Dolby guys, hey, we do Kraftwerk. They said, cool, send us some stems and we do a little bit, and then everybody's happy. And Fritz and I looked to each other and said, did you ever do music production? No, they did film productions. So I created a mixed environment where Fritz could sit in this Nuendo, work with all these plugins and all the well-known sounds discretely, and creating a mix and sending me some objects to my Pro Tools was connected to the Nuendo where I did the pannings. So that was one of another cool application for the spatial audio designer. We also did Booker Shades, my second Grammy nomination. We also used the tool, as far as I remember. I think so. Yeah, I think we did. And recently I did Major Tom with a spatial audio designer. So well-known German artist, but also known in internationally. And there will follow more.
Very interesting, very interesting. I think a lot of people just kind of fell on the floor when they heard Kraftwerk, right? I mean,
Yes, of
it's
course.
like one of those things.
Yeah, and some other cool stuff is in the pipeline. Stuff but or acts, well-known acts. But of course, cannot talk about it before we release it, as always.
Now, I have to ask you that. I recently had an interview with a former colleague of mine, Ryan Schwabe, who is also twice Grammy nominated. And I asked him, what do you have to do in order to win a Grammy nomination? So since I have you on here, I'm going to ask you the same. What do you have to do in order to win a Grammy nomination?
This is nice. As I was there for the first time in 2018, there was the Grammys. Since a very long time, they returned to New York. And it was in the MSG. What is the Madison Square Garden? Yeah. And I remember as I went to the registration, a young guy sat in front of me, was very excited to hear I did Kraftwerk, and he asked the same question. And well, I had some answered were very much from could be from a fortune cookie. So do what you want and try to convince your artist and be productive and invest as much as possible time and be creative, blah, 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 blah. So I would say this is the basic for all success. Working hard on your stuff, believe in your ideas, but listen to what others say as well. So find a middle way between it. And but try to convince also your artists. Not easy sometimes, but generally I would say the Grammy opportunities for best immersive audio album. This is where I was nominated. This is a little bit newer category. First it was before it was best surround sound album. Now it's best immersive album, and this is category where you have a little bit better chances if you make a very good work. But surprise, surprise, there are many mixes from, for example, Apple. You listen to and you say, I think I like the stereo version much more. And this is because of we really have to, and this is one reason why we did this talk. We really have to deliver more inspiration, showing the tools, and giving information to young producers or new producers in the immersive audio domain. This is the reason why I'm traveling so much, being on the AES, on the NAMM show, on the NAB, on the Infocom in Orlando, and as well as on the IPS, so in the planetarium community, to inspire the community, the owners of the site, as well as the producers who create the content for the owners. Cut the long story short, so Grammy, you have to care about it. And I'm shocked about it, but they do not come to you and ask you. You have to go to them. So you're not getting a Grammy because you made the best production ever. So you have to send it in. You have to do the registration and so on. So you have to ask for it. Can I be there? Can I send my stuff? So this is also very important to understand.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You said it slightly differently, but your answer was not that different in the sense that what Ryan essentially said is, and this is something that I think is really important for many of our students to understand, is because when our students are coming into a college, the first thing that they think of that the mastery of the tools is everything, right? So kind of it's only part of it, right? So you need to be able to network, you need to be able to communicate, you need to be able to listen to your artist. I think that's the way you phrased that. This was pretty much exactly what Ryan said. You need to be able to really work with other people, and that's something that I think we can all take away. Kind of that's really important, and you have to send it in. Yeah.
I have a lot, I
Now,
can tell you.
Now, you already said that there's this new Grammy category for immersive, or kind of renamed Grammy category for immersive audio. Where do you see immersive audio going in the future? What do you think is the state, or how do you evaluate the state of immersive audio, and where do you think it will actually kind of move into or towards?
Well, I think Apple, as far as I heard, did a very good start. They didn't accept app mixes. I don't say app mixes are evil or ugly, but I say, well, it should, if you just have a stereo mix from an old production, why not make an up mix for certain applications? But should be so there are good ones and bad ones, not only depending to the tools, but also to the skills of the people who do it. I think one important step is, and this is also the title of my AES presentation in Europe in 2 weeks, is immersive audio stereo plus effects is not enough. So what I wanted to figure out or point out there is we need to understand. Oh, the producers. This is my personal opinion. It's not a recommendation, to understand this not as an effect, and try to make mixes using all the loudspeakers you have to make a convincing experience for the listener. And of course, depending on what the content is it classic? Is it rock? Is it Kraftwerk? You have different opportunities. So in classic, you wouldn't move objects. But you would of course use big ambience microphone setups, for example. And with Kraftwerk, you have a lot of opportunities to work with effects and so on. But I would say the final goal should be to excite the listener as best as possible. That means it is okay to move something around or make an effect who's just coming from above or from surround, but it should be, my personal opinion, in a way where the listener say, oh, hey, that was cool. So if the listener think, okay, I understand you have a panic tool. So then, so more a little bit a cinema approach of mixing music, then I would say it's not really match the task. So spatial audio is not an effect, and it doesn't mean you have a lot of loudspeakers. You have to use it the whole time. Just try to see how can you see the big advantages. So spatial audio, just by making music spatial audio, it becomes to be more emotional. We started with that as we went from mono to stereo. The first thing, of course, the first tries with the Beatles, one musician left, the other one's on the right side, is not very funny. But as we know, finally we do 50 or 60 years stereo mixing. It is clear you have a lot of opportunities. And this is the same with immersive audio. So using the loudspeakers to make a good experience, a realistic experience. And the cool thing is you have less overlaps and masking. So you need not so many EQs. And as we know, an EQ doesn't make the sound better. So I normally use an EQ when I have a problem. And not, of course, I also use an EQ to just lift the high end a little bit or something like that. But so this is understanding spatial audio as the next step and working with the opportunities is what where I would say this should everything, and I hope everything will go to, because you do not have to be an expert to judge it's good or not. So everybody can say, hey, don't ask me why, but it was so great, the experience. It sounds so cool. And of course, they don't say, hey, the bass drum over there and the voice over there, and the movement was great, and the guitar, blah, blah, blah. So we, as an expert, we do this. But normal listeners hear the difference if you make a good production. This is a very good news.
It's very interesting that you mentioned kind of the should we call it a policy by Apple that you're not allowed to upmix, because I'm not quite sure if you know that, but I did a video a while back. One of our Discord members, Sam Hocking, and co-host of the Spatial Audio Monthly podcast. Hello, Sam. Created a very, very good plugin that essentially upmixes to 9.1.6 in a way that it completely nulls, so it kind of folds back to the original stereo. And I demonstrated that kind of in an upmixing scenario. Obviously, the way he originally meant this plugin to be used was more as a tool that allows you to, for example, if you have a pad or something and you want to kind of spatialize that around. But you can use that to kind of upmix kind of an entire kind of stereo track. And I got a lot of people very upset with me. You're not supposed to do that. I do understand essentially where Apple comes from. I just think that sometimes, for many people, this is just an easy entry point, right? So it gets people excited about the technology. It's easy to do. If they have a good sounding stereo track, then they get something going. I kind of agree with you to some extent, but I also kind of see the possibility that this might actually be something that entices people to get started with spatial audio, because we need more people kind of working with immersive audio, don't we?
We need absolutely more people and more skilled people. So people who also try to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And where does new audio technology fit into that? We haven't talked about new audio technology for a while.
Wow. So the first thing is, a friend of mine mentioned recently, this is a very German way to name a company. So the name is what the company is doing. So in the US, the company is Yulu or Yala or Lala. So the company name has totally nothing to do with what you're doing, what your business is. And so this is, this is the reason why it is new audio technology. I don't remember exactly the development, how I finally decided to name it new audio technology, but however, I did it. And new audio technology is, let's say, the hub for all this and the network to bring all this together, our work, our products, and I would say this is new audio technology. We have a store, and we have informations, we have a YouTube channel.
And so I'm going to link to all of that in the description below, obviously. And I encourage everybody to check that out, because it's really super interesting. Now, one thing that we have been talking around for a while and that I would like to address at least a little bit is, why is everything in Germany?
This is funny. I'm living, as you know, in the capital of DAWs. So Steinberg is here, Logic is here, Audition is here, Studio One is here. So I don't know why this happened, but it developed this way. I have no idea why. It's maybe we have so many crazy nerds here in Germany, or maybe it's the air of Hamburg what is inspiring a lot of people to doing crazy stuff.
My first inclination was always to kind of point to the Fraunhofer Institute, but essentially kind of that electronic the digital audio workstation has existed long before there was the Fraunhofer Institute, right? So it can't be that. There must be something deeper in there, right?
Yeah, the founder of Logic, so the C-Lab guys are also from Hamburg, I know of them. I remember one of them. Somebody told me later he was developing Logic, no, Celeb at the beginning, and was a musician I knew. And in the beginning, QLab was a little bit later, has been just a MIDI audio workstation. Yeah, but I have no answer why it is here or why it developed here. So just happened.
I mean, obviously, there's a little bit in France, but kind of it's France, right?
Yeah, the French people has also in France. You have also some very interesting stuff, especially in binaural and spatial audio. They have
Yeah,
also a lot of things
absolutely.
going on there. Very, very much based on what went on or what happens at the ILCAM. ILCAM
Yeah,
is,
that's
let's
true.
say,
It always seems to be some sort of a research kind of center that kind of that is at the base of these types of things, right? And that might explain why you have a little bit more of that in Europe than you have in the United States, because essentially Europeans are a little bit more willing to invest in things that are not yet completely commercially viable, right? Speaking about Fraunhofer, they are also very well known for the MPEG-H algorithms, and my understanding is that you guys are doing something in that space as well, isn't it?
yeah. So we started right from the beginning offering MPEG-H creation in the plugin and also in the processors. So the plugins allows you to switch right from your immersive mix in Dolby Atmos or in Auro 3D to make an MPEG-H representation. And this is MPEG-H is a streaming format. It's not a Blu-ray or cinema format, and it allows you interaction. So you can create in the plugin you create a main mix, let's say 714, and you can offer extra, let's say, comments or different languages, and you can put these are components, and you can put this in presets, and you can allow finally the user at home at his TV screen to change some levels or switch to another language or something like that. So it has a lot of, not a lot, but some interactivity, allowing you, especially with broadcast. But also, I think there's also a future for music things. And you can create this with a plugin. And as some of you may know, Sony 360 is also based on MPEG-H. And this is also possible to create a master you can use for Sony 360 with the Spatial Audio Designer plugin. And the processor is the only tool in the market what allows to make live MPEG-H with authoring, with mixing connected to your mixing console, like a Lavo console or a Stage Deck console, as well as authoring. So this is called, putting these presets and this component together is called authoring. And you have monitoring, and you have a loudness measurement, and of course you have the streams you send to the encoders and the broadcast hub, where you do the encoding what is sent to the customers. This is the processor, and this is of course used in Brazil, where MPEG-H is a broadcast standard, as well as in Korea, where MPEG-H is broadcast standard, and it looks like that Japan will follow very soon, using also MPEG-H as a broadcast standard. And it's also from the encoding point, it is a very, very good format.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting one, and I even had an interview with kind of a colleague from Fraunhofer, and we talked about it. I'm going to leave some links in the description. I also have a video about the Walkmix creator that creates Sony 360. So that's actually really that's a really interesting one. So if anybody is interested, I'm going to leave some links in the description. Since we're already talking commercial, where do you see the immersive audio industry moving in the next couple of years? What do you think is going to happen?
I was recently in LA and visited the Cosm Dome in the Hollywood Park. This is a big LED dome, but a little bit different as the Sphere. And they also have a big spatial audio system. They have a big LED dome. Oh, I mentioned it. And this is surprising. I've been there for an education show, but also for a football game. And they use their spatial audio or immersive audio for the stadium at ambient, of course, putting pinpoint audio to windows. They put for narrator or commentators on the screen and the overall sound, of course. So there could be, and they plan on many more of these. They also have one in Dallas and one in Fort Worth, and the next one will be in Atlanta. But they plan many more worldwide. So I think maybe we have an immersive audio business with such kind of applications. I was very surprised that there has been so many people watching the football game in that environment. So in the beginning, I was very alone. As I thought, oh damn, nobody's here, so not a good business. But just after some 15, 20, 30 minutes, it was full. They drank beer, had snacks, had fun, and there was let's say an event. So they sit not at home on the big LED screen. They sit there and see it as an event. So this is something in between of being there really and watching it just on TV alone with some popcorn at home. It's more than a cinema experience. And so I see there is could be a cool business. What is also, of course, gained by the Sphere, the one in Las Vegas. We will have soon, well, in some years, another one in Abu Dhabi, and I'm pretty sure that we will have more of these applications in the outside. And honestly, I made a test here with a soundbar. With a soundbar, what has upfiring loudspeakers and satellites. What the surrounds, where also has been where some upfiring loudspeakers to the ceiling are in. So it's an idea from Dolby, and that works pretty good. I was very surprised. So what I want to say, so we had the problem in the times of 5.1 that everybody, the industry said nobody has it. So just two nerds per town. So it doesn't help. It's not a business. But today we have more and more of these soundbars as well as smart speakers. And this is a cool thing. So if you play a good Dolby Atmos or immersive audio production, maybe also an MPEG-H. MPEG-H is also a pretty good immersive audio format. If you play it on such a device and compare it to the stereo version, this is, oh, wow, this is nicer. This is cooler, of course, based on a good production. If it is just a bad upmix and or something like that, this is something. It's a little bit like the white bottom on old ghetto blasters. What is just a face reverse? We know that finally, but this is yeah. So it is
So
much.
now we have to explain what a ghetto blaster is.
Oh, really?
because
just
the
a German
vast
term?
majority of listeners are going to know what that actually is.
Good. I'm sorry. I don't want to be. And of course, binaural. So evolution will not give us. I have a very funny picture in my slides when I'm talking about this. So where I see myself, and then I have the big ears of Jar Jar Binks, so we say, well, we will not get a third ear in the evolution the next billion or million years. So headphones will be with us for the next decades, centuries, and 1,000 years because we have two ears. So that means if we create binaural productions, who sounds great, generations later can have the same experience. So can listen this to the headphones you can buy then, but HRTFs keeps to be HRTFs. They will not change in 100 or 1,000 years. So binaural is the big thing. And if we try to change the binaural production a little bit, you remember the Dolby guys offer in their tool this non near mid far. This is an idea I use for Kraftwerk already, using
Hmm.
more than one binaural processing. For example, for Kraftwerk, I had a very closed, very tight binaural processing for the main stuff, for the bed. I used for the objects, I used a little bit larger room, that you have a distance perception, very realistically. And I used a third room for just for the LFE to have a big, so a binaural processing where now the LFE sounds pretty big and cool and nice. And I mixed these three and created binaural mixes for Kraftwerk available on the Blu-rays and on the, I don't think if there's a DVD, but on the Blu-ray, if you use the binaural processing from Apple, you hear the Apple binaural processing. It's
Hmm.
not the binaural processing we created at that time. So
Hmm.
there is a
Hmm.
lot of possibilities with headphones, with binaural production, with binaural production. Yeah, binaural production. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you said something that I think is really important, and that is the focus on installations, the focus on experiences, right? Especially these days where we have a lot of automation kind of coming our way. As, kind of just speaking about artificial intelligence, I think humans will have an increased interest in having actual real experiences. So a lot of these things I think will become more and more important. How is new audio technology involved in that kind of space? You already mentioned kind of the sphere or kind of these dome projections, but how is new audio technology kind of preparing for that increased interest in installation, really?
So the installation part is of course currently one of our main business, where we do where we do a lot of projects in the US, in Asia, but also in Europe. And this is a very growing market. Every theater, what is currently decide to refurbish, is saying we need to go to immersive. And it's of course it's a nice place to do immersive audio. I'm sure you will not have a cinema anymore where it's not using immersive audio. And as well as same with the IMAX and with the LED domes, everybody has immersive audio. And we are involved in all of these, not in the cinemas, but in all the other project venues and installations. And artistical stuff is also cool. So with installations or this projection mapping. So if you map beamers on houses or big parts of the city, they also start to think about, wow, it is a huge experience, but we have a tiny loudspeaker in the middle. So there's a conflict. There's really a conflict, and you can make it better. Yeah, this is something where I see we will have also more and more cool applications and possibilities. And as I said, so the chicken egg problem, nobody has it in the 5.1 days. It's not existing anymore. So we have good binaural projection. We have sound bars. We have domes. We have planetariums. We have theaters. We have installations where immersive audio is requested. So we have to do immersive audio. And so we have the tools to manage it on all of them individually. And this is right from the beginning. We have the tools at the beach, laptop, headphone, to create content for that. So there is, let's say, an end-to-end idea for this. And because of that, I'm pretty sure we will have more installations, different kinds of different installations, where we have applications for immersive audio production and playback and so on.
Kind of, I mentioned AI a little bit because I primarily, this is quite frankly what I'm researching right now. Kind of, I'm in a creative college and we need to think about where this is going. And I was just wondering, do you have any thoughts about that would inform my kind of understanding of where AI is or what AI is going to kind of create or kind of in the immersive audio space in particular?
Yeah, so this is this is one of the buzzwords currently, and the whole music industry is afraid of in 5 years just AIs creating music. So I'm not convinced about that. And because I think it is a different to, oh, if you do elevator music, so maybe you have not a job in 5 years, could be. But if you still create artistical music, different ways of artistical music, AI may helps to steps to new dimensions so that you can do things you may want to do in the past, but you couldn't because technically it's too huge to do this. And now with an AI, you can use the AI to help you to manage audio in a way you couldn't do before, and concentrate on certain parts of your production. In our domain, AI is I see AI, I would say, where it really belongs to, for management. So big data. So we have problems, let's say problems or issues in some applications where we have a lot of audio sources, or we have to route a huge system correctly, or we have to measure a big system. And this is very, very, very time consuming. So I think that a good trained AI, can help us more and more, not wasting time with the setup stuff, with the management, the organization stuff. This is also cool for some, but for artists, it's a nightmare. So some love to work with all the buttons and the knobs and so on, but many artists are very also, and also in the installation industry, you would be happy if you have an AI what helps you to do something what you do 10 times a day, but it is complex, and where the AI knows, okay, I have to put I have there's a folder with 100 tracks. They are named correctly by another AI what did the export, and you can say your AI, please prepare it for me, make it available for me, put it on my faders, and set it up the way we discussed. You learned from me very quickly. So you hit the button, the AI is running, and after 5 minutes, you're ready to rock on your mixing desk. You have everything under your faders. So this is pretty cool, and I'm totally not afraid of AI in this regard. My personal opinion.
Yeah, you said something I think that is very important and that kind of resonates with me. I actually quite a while ago I kind of put out a video I think I entitled it "The Rise of the Real Artist." Because what it really means is that there obviously kind of there are certain areas that are going to become I wouldn't say obsolete, but that will feel the pressure, like you called elevator music, kind of compositions for corporate events, kind of these types of things, where you usually have low effort advertising, where you have low effort kind of productions, but that opens up the space for real creativity in other fields, right? So essentially, kind of I think there will be an increased interest, and that's why I kind of led in the last question with that, really, because I feel that there will be an increased interest in actual experiences that are human generated, and that will not go away. So I would agree with you. That's usually kind of the way we kind of tell our students to kind of think about AI as something that helps them in completing those mundane, boring, repetitive tasks that essentially prevent them from actually being creative, right? So you want to automate the things that are boring and menial. So we are getting close to the end of our interview. So kind of let's start the final kind of question with something that most of the viewers are probably interested in, and that is how do you get started with immersive audio? What is your recommendations? If somebody listens to that and says, well, that's all cool, I'd like to do that now. I'd like to be on the beach and then kind of create something that I can take to the dome and then play in the sphere or whatever, right? How should they get started?
You need some main skills. So a voice, a guitar, a drum kit is not different in immersive than in stereo. So knowing to treat a voice in a way that you can put it in your mix accordingly, creating a good, convincing sounding drum kit for a mix, this is a basic. And this is what I said, different. It's not different. It's the same in immersive audio. The difference in immersive audio is you have more opportunities to deliver it, to distribute it, because you have more loudspeakers. And I think if you have this, if a producer have this in mind, understanding this and starts to get his own or her own ideas to maybe change the kind of experience listening to a drum kit. For example, I put my overheads really to the high channels, mostly not completely, but a little bit higher. I use the toms. I put them a little bit into the room because we can also mix into the room. What creates not really the experience that the toms are closer to you, but it changed the coloration. And so this is so a flame on the drums on the toms sounds more convincing and different and more spatial with this trick I use. And what I also do is I very often split my bass drum sound and put the high part, so 120 and higher on the center speaker because I want to hear the kick and the attack. But everything what is lower, I deliver it on the not only on the LFE, but also on the left, right, and also maybe a little bit on the left side and left, right speakers to create a little bit more uncorrelated low end because the loudspeakers do a kind of uncorrelation by themselves. And so this is, I would say, the beginning of mixing immersive audio. Being aware of this, of course, you need the right tools. And to do this in your audio environment, in your audio workstation, this is very important. My personal opinion. I hate to leave my audio workstation because it's not really doing do the spatial audio production stuff the way I want. It is, of course, I was lucky. I had experience with mixing immersive uh, since 25 years, starting with surround sound 5.1, and of course, I took over a lot of strategies to mixing in 3D, so with another layer. And here's a funny thing: creating an immersive mix is quicker as creating a stereo mix because you don't have to do so many trade-offs. With two channels, you have to deal with what can I do with putting all my sources in these damn two stereo channels. If you have more channels, you have more opportunities to cluster, to place your stuff, and because of that, you're much quicker. So I recommend if someone asks me, starting stereo or starting with a immersive mix, because customer wants to have both, and you have to deliver both for Apple delivery, Apple Spatial. I say start with immersive. It's so much quicker, and then after that, make the stereo version just by switching to in our plugin. You can just switch to stereo, and then you hear the whole rendering and placement in stereo, and you will see you have to do some tweakings and tunings, but you finally find all your decisions you love and you made in the 3D version, and you could make much quicker because you have so much space. You find this in the stereo mix, so you're pretty close to a stereo version of your mix. And I would say you may also reach to another stereo mix as you would create if you start and continue in stereo. And my personal opinion is, I think mostly the result of the stereo version you made from the 3D version is cooler, my personal opinion and experience, than the version I started in stereo and with this little environment.
So kind of just get started, kind of try out things. And obviously, Spatial Audio Designer is a good tool to get started, right? And I'm going to leave links in the description below to check that out in case you don't know. So thanks again. This was a really cool kind of conversation. I really enjoyed that one. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, either. Thank you very much, Michael. And yeah, hope to see you again. And by the way, as you heard, I'm around. So on the AES, on the Infocom, if you want to see me discuss or complain about something, or just let me know.
So you will have a lot of people viewing, visiting you now,
Cool.
right?
Cool. I'll see you there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Bye-bye.
Well, that's everything for today. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments or join our free Discord server. The invite link is in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all things Dolby Atmos and immersive audio. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.